We'll go back to Chiara. As I said, she'll talk about less work, now what? And the insights that she had after a month of low income. It happens. Chiara is an English and German into Italian translator, specialized in beauty and cosmetics, marketing, medicine, travel, tourism, and so on. Now based in Italy, she lived in the UK and in Germany. She has held webinars and sessions for the British ITI, the BP conference, the Italian Professional Association, TradInfo, and other platforms. She was also in a previous edition of our own conference at the ITA. With no further ado, Chiara, in bocca al lupo, the floor is yours.
Grazie, Ellie. So first of all, hi everyone. Okay. So thanks for coming here online and listening to this. I'll now share my screen. So I'd like to keep questions for the end of the presentation. If something happens and you need to interrupt me, just jump in, okay? Because I won't see any of your faces, unfortunately. So I hope you'll be seeing this full screen. Thumbs up if this is working, please. Okay, good. Okay, so less work. Now what? Takeaways learned the hard way from a colleague. Me. So I'll just say who I am, but actually Elizir has basically said everything. So we can almost skip that. I'll tell you what happened. I'll share what I did. I'll then sort of like go to a more general level and give you some pieces of advice. And then at the very end, you're welcome to ask questions, to comment, to share your own situation. So as I said, I work from German and English into Italian. I have a couple of specializations. And before going freelance, I worked in customer service and marketing. And yes, I was lucky enough to be a speaker at ITA 2 years ago. So long story short, this is what happened. It was the end of September 2024. And I already knew that that was a slow month. But then when I looked at the bigger picture, I realized that that had been my slowest month since November 2021. And I had started freelancing full time in January 2020. So it was not good at all. I knew on one hand that that was due to a tough family situation that happened last year. And so I knew that I hadn't marketed as hard as usual. But still, I don't know, this didn't sound right. And at first, I really panicked for a few days. And then I decided that I didn't want to give up. I needed some data. I needed to do something. And now I'll sort of like have a slide for every single thing that I did. Okay. So first thing that I did was attending courses and make sure to sort of like have more tools under my belt. So I know that AI is sort of like the big elephant in the room. There are people who say, oh, we won't exist in like 10 years or something like that. But I think that, at least in my case, it's helped me doing some processes faster. For example, sometimes research, sometimes really boring tasks, sometimes it helps in terms of like give me like a different angle when I translate. But until September, I hadn't really tried anything with AI. And so doing a course gave me some insights. And also I realized that I could use it for different things I hadn't really thought about. I also did quite a tough technical SEO course to make sure that I could also work on my website, make sure it would perform better, be faster, that people could find me more easily, make sure that I would sort of like make keywords research and implementation better and all this. Then I implemented a daily marketing plan, which for some of you might look like very bare bone, but I have a small child. Last year was a tough year, so I decided to keep it small, but keep it consistent. So basically the plan was contact one potential translation agency a day. And right now I'm focusing on the US. That was back in September. Now with the current situation, I'm not sure, but never mind, it was September. Then, end of September. Then contact one potential customer every single day. And for me, my most profitable sector is the medical one. And so I decided to sort of like go where the money was most likely to be. Also regarding LinkedIn, sending 5 invitations to either potential customers or at least people who could be interesting and useful connections. And then send at least 2 LinkedIn messages a day to those new connections, just to like say who I was and just sort of like introducing myself. Sometimes I would do this every single day, and sometimes I would batch tasks together. So for example, contacting like 5 translation agencies once a week, but to make sure that this would be sort of like my marketing mix in a way. Also, I try to gather some information from current, past, and potential customers, because I have learned, and this was also before panicking, that until you have sort of like hard data, it's almost impossible, first of all, to understand the situation, and second of all, to make a plan. Because if you don't really know anything and you're just relying on your feelings, on your sensations and all that, then basically your actions will follow that, and they might feel okay or like, oh, I feel I'm doing the right thing, but sometimes that's not the case. So I contacted all my current customers, dormant customers, I hadn't heard from in a while, people who hadn't been customers, companies or people who hadn't been customers yet, but who were close. And I asked questions about, first of all, my situation, like, are you happy with my work? Has anything changed and all that? Because I knew that, for example, in terms of agencies, the answer could be, oh, we have found something cheaper. Sorry about that. Customer situation, like, have your plans about, for example, the Italian speaking market changed? Or I don't know, have you hired someone in-house and so they are doing all the work? And also the outlook for other languages. For example, if maybe a company was then focusing more on another market, or if, for example, a translation company was not really receiving that much in any of the main working languages. I got some really good insights. I know that I lost one customer to AI because they told me that they had more Italian speaking people at the time, and then they just relied on machine translation post editing. I knew, for example, that another company had someone who basically didn't have that much to do, and so they said, oh, we'll give you the newsletter to translate, with quite a bad result because I got the newsletter, but that's the way it is. And I had a lot of translation agencies telling me, you're still our number one choice, but we honestly are getting very little work. If you're not sure how to sort of like do this, I personally sent an email and did a few phone calls. You can also ask for consulting calls. For example, you ask questions for 20 minutes or maybe even less if you feel that you might gather some insights in a shorter time, and then offer in exchange 10 minutes of your time when, for example, people can sort of like pick your brain for free and ask you questions, for example, about, I don't know, how to like nail your personal market, what are the sort of like main pitfalls in your niche or something like that. You sort of like do an exchange because some people might not be willing to disclose this information. And that might be a sort of like win-win situation. Also, I try to understand what was behind this. I knew that some of that sort of like pitfall of work was on me because I knew that during the previous month, I had marketed very little. I knew what was sort of like behind my professional profile. So, but I needed to understand if it was a mix of something. I knew that after those calls that there was like technology involved, like more people were trying AI. And for example, I know that the accounts of some translation companies I was working for were using AI. I also think there was a bit of bad luck because, for example, October, November, and December were great. And I don't know why. And also the current economic situation at the time, there were still two main wars going on, not too far away from Italy. And also, I believe there was the uncertainty of the US elections. Because after that, I also saw an increase in work from my US customers. So I think people were sort of like waiting and looking for what would happen. Whereas I mentioned them before. Also, I know this might sound like a no-brainer, but I try to sort of like make clarity in my digital workspace. And so I got rid of what I didn't need. So I started unfollowing people or also colleagues on social media if they were not sort of like providing what I was looking for, or if they were only, I don't know, saying that we're all doomed to like disappear or something similar. I decided to set up timers for scrolling. I hope you're not like me, but sometimes I say, oh, I'll just check this news on Instagram, and then 20 minutes later, I'm still there, which is no good because it's just wasted time. And time right now is my sort of like most scarce resource. And that was at that time as well. Because 4 p.m. my child is there and it's on me due to my current family situation. So I really needed to sort of like cut off on distractions. Also, I started unsubscribing from newsletters. If you're like me, you get like, I don't know, 5 or 6 newsletters a day, and then maybe you read one. And the rest either stays there in the inbox or is sort of like stored waiting to be read. And so I realized that if I had like my email on, or I saw a notification, I was like jumping straight away to my inbox, and then it was just a newsletter. So I decided to change my inbox notifications, but also to get less newsletters and to focus on what really mattered. Also, last point, stay away from negative people. And this is self-explanatory, but I'd like to sort of like make a disclaimer. I think we need to be realistic. So I do think that AI is taking some sort of like parts of people's jobs, not just us. But I think that being realistic and either provide solutions or like ways of coping is very different from just sort of like being negative, and that's it. And I think we don't really need any more of that. So that really helped in terms of like people on, for example, LinkedIn, I don't know, WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups, and all that. Negativity is sort of like good as long as it's like constructive, I would say. Also, I try to diversify, and here I have like mixed feelings in a way. about a month ago, we sort of like a really great interpreter, Binda Moin, and I held the second edition of this business retreat for interpreters and translators. And I also started coaching informally someone who actually asked me to coach them. And I really liked it. But then I realized that if that was a hard sort of like time for me, and I was marketing to people who had the same issues as I did, maybe they were not ready to either buy a full day as a business retreat or buy like coaching packages or anything like that. So I decided that I wanted to diversify, but maybe my target really, like, it wasn't great to have like fellow translators at target, at least at that time. So this means that right now I'm not coaching, but we might hold a third edition of the Modern Business Retreat next year. Who knows? I also trained as B2B case study writer. So basically I had done a copywriting course last year, and I was waiting in a way to sort of like put all this knowledge into action. And I realized that I like writing case studies and that B2B could be like a good market. Okay. If you'll have another conference next year, I might report back on this because I'm about to launch that. So that's basically like now I'm still in the making. Okay. Also, I got a coach, and I think this helped me focusing on what I really needed to do, because I'm someone who can sort of like uphold in a good way, like, oh, I need to do ABC, I'll do ABC. But I think that sometimes having someone who can sort of like step back and give you like a broader perspective might be a good thing, especially for this sort of like side business. I didn't want to make all the mistakes again that I had done when starting out as freelance translator. So I wanted to get someone who could help me speeding things up. And although I had to change one person because the first coach I got was not good, I would definitely recommend getting a coach, because you definitely get someone else's perspective on things, and that really helped me realize, okay, I might do this differently. Okay, I might need to focus more on this, on that. And you sort of like go through the easier path when you have to sort of like set up everything. Okay, especially if you don't have that much time, I think it's worth the investment. And so now we are back to sort of like the more general advice. I would say attend training courses, but don't make training courses stop you from like marketing and put yourself out there, because we can have that sort of paralysis, or like, oh, I'll market myself, I'll put myself out there once I know 100% of what should be like known about that. Just go and attend training courses for maybe if time is your issue, something so that you can get quicker. Or I don't know, if you feel that you lack knowledge in a certain area, attend training courses for that. Get data from customers, from fellow colleagues who are really precious source of information, from people in general. Okay. Diversify. There are so many things I think we can do as translators, not just in terms of like interpreting and all that, but also customer service, marketing, business development. I think we sometimes just are just stuck in our bubble in a way. Also, I would say market harder and consistently. This is one of those times when you really lose faith in your skills in a way, because you start, it's like a vicious cycle when you say, oh, I don't get any work, I'm not good, I don't feel like marketing and all that. Try to reverse that cycle and I like to take this from my coach. She says scrappy action. So it's like, don't wait for something to be perfect. If it's like even a little step forward, go for that. Don't wait for your portfolio to be 100 polished. If this is what is stopping you, make it look good and then go ahead. And also the last one, which is also a reminder for me, because I'm saying that, but I'm not really good at this. Be kind to yourself, because I think that in this sort of like capitalism-led societies, and also in this quite tough freelance world, sometimes we are led to think that our worth and our income are related. Like the more you earn, the more you are worthy, the more you are important, and all that. This is not the case, because we can be really good at marketing, we can be really good at what we do, but there are also some sort of like external circumstances that we can't really control. And that is basically my main message for today. So that was my presentation. Here are sort of like the digital places where you can find me. It's LinkedIn. I've got not a great Instagram profile for work, but you're welcome to go and have a look at that. And that's my website. And I'll answer any questions that might have popped up.
Thank you, Chiara. It was very good and very interesting insights. And sometimes, yeah, we need an external motivation or circumstances in order to get them. And I hope things are getting better. There's one comment here. It says, thank you, Chiara. Celebrate your idea of unfollowing accounts and focusing on what is actually worth for you. Our time is precious. Yeah, indeed.
Definitely, yeah.
And I also want to say thank you for a very honest and sort of authentic talk. It was really heartfelt, and thank you for sharing that with us, and especially what you did to get out of it, because I think that panic can very often be paralyzing. And it's very hard to motivate yourself to get going, to do things when you feel that. So I really found your talk inspiring. Thank you.
Thanks, Naomi. I think we see so many times that we celebrate our wins, and I think this is really important. But I also think that it's important to say and to acknowledge that things might not go as planned sometimes. And I think that sharing ways to sort of like get out of those situations might help other people. And I think that this still makes me, I think, like a good professional and a good human. Not that much that I showed up 1 hour later, but never mind.
So far, it's enough.
But I think that especially now with all the social media, where sort of people showing off all the time how perfect their lives are, and people don't share the difficulties, and you know, and then people who experience it, which is everyone, they feel like they're alone in those difficulties. They're obviously not. So thank you.
Thanks to you.
Again, I once proposed to do something about our failures and mistakes, not from other people, but our own, and nobody accepted the challenge. But again, thank you. As Naomi said, it was a very honest and inspiring presentation. And we had 4 different lectures from 4 different lecturers in 3 continents. And again, Dolores, Chiara, Adele, Alfonso, thank you so much for your time, your sharing with us some of your insights and knowledge. And hope to see you again next year, or whenever it was suitable for you to jump in here. With this, we close the early afternoon session of today. We have a short break for coffee, tea, or whatever, and we'll meet again in 10 minutes or so. So thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, there was another question. Struggling to handle work, raising kids, and tackling household. I wonder if you have a tip how to manage that.
There's also a question, I think, from Dolores. How did you choose your coach?
Yeah.
I start with Miriam's question. Miriam, I think that if I had the perfect answer, I wouldn't be here, but I would like an acclaimed guru of like household tasks. I get help when I can. I am unfortunately part of the 5 a.m. club. I wake up at 5. I work from 5 to 7:30 in the morning because I know that that is basically my power hour. And then I wake up my kid, do all the sort of like school run stuff, and then come back. I would prefer to wake up at 6, to be honest. And I have tried to find customers who are basically active in the same sort of like hours I can be working. So that is something that has helped me. So for example, I don't have a lot of customers who are from the US because they are active in the evening, and that really clashes with my routine. I have learned to let go. So let it go if I can't do that. And I think that the more they grow up, the better it gets, to be honest. And the sort of like piece of advice, be kind to yourself. Yeah, definitely do that. And
expect for some surprises when they grow up.
Yes. we won't talk about
small children, small problems, big children, big problems. I know. At least they'd be more independent for some things. And Dolores, regarding your question, how I choose my coach, I started looking for coaches both online and on LinkedIn. And so I started connecting with them and looked at the content they were sharing and also sort of like the people they were targeting. So the first person, and then I sort of like shortlisted 3. And at first I went with someone who would sort of like curate more the social aspect of my copywriting business. But then she was really not organized. So we stayed together, sort of like worked together for 1.5 months, and then that was no good. And then I found another person who was actually looking to work specifically with women and people who were at the beginning of intermediate level of their writing career and all that. So that really ticked all the elements. And before hiring her, I did a webinar with her. So I saw how she was sort of like speaking, how she was behaving, all that. I asked tons of questions. If they offer a clarity call, or I don't know how they call that, like a free call or something, go for that. And I would say give them, I don't know, a couple of months. And then if it doesn't click, move to someone else. I hope this answers your question.
Because it's not easy to choose one, yeah? Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Okay. Perfect. Again, thank you, all of you, all the lecturers, all the public, the audience is also very important. And we'll see you in 10 minutes or so.